Hi everybody, welcome to Sacred Saturday. So when I was creating these daily themed ideas, my previous Saturday post in my previous incarnation of daily themes was a social post. I wanted a theme that I could put in these videos on YouTube, and I was thinking what's missing from my posts that I've already created. And we've got a little bit of everything. We've got a little bit of emotional health support, we've got a little bit of mental health support, we've got a little bit of physical life, health, wellbeing support. We don't have much for spiritual, which is kind of crazy because for in my that's what we're going to talk about actually. That's what's just dropped in, that's what we'll talk about. But in my life and in my journey through healing, the spiritual aspect of it has been one of the most important. So I think that's kind of where we're going to go. Like why the spiritual aspect, in my opinion, is the most important. But interestingly, that's the one that's been most suppressed by whatever it is that's kind of been out to suppress humanity for so long. It brings a lot of my experience together. The fact that I grew up in a religion with Christianity and actually feel like I was the most far removed from the spiritual whilst in that, but also I always had this little thread weaving through, almost keeping me just gently enough spiritual to not become a complete muggle, to use a Harry Potter term. We're all energy. I'm an energy healer. I'm hi anyone who's watching for the first time. I'm Davina Ketson. I'm an energy intuitive holistic therapist, spiritual mentor, and creative life support mentor. And I feel like this idea of bringing the spiritual aspect into holistic support is really, really important. Lots and lots of people out there in the holistic fields, even those who do energy healing, even those who are Reiki practitioners and masters, don't necessarily teach the spiritual as a priority. And for me, I feel, I'm going to talk about it, that it's the priority, because that's who we are. Shocker. First and foremost, we are energy, and we are non-physical. We are light. We are spirit. But whatever it is that's been out to take humanity on this wild journey that it's been on, that's the thing. The reason why I think this is the priority is because that's the thing that they have put right down, suppressed it right down under the ground, so that people think it's not real, so that people think that it's not a priority. They've done so much to literally destroy people's spiritual nature by making everything that's spiritual out to be not real, by causing division and confusion within those who would consider themselves spiritual. I once heard a thought and feeling and perspective on this. Anyone who's familiar with the Bible, that'd be me. In the book of Genesis, yes, in Genesis. In the book of Genesis, when after the creation story, which is not like, I'm not a creationist, I don't believe the creation story as it's laid out in the Bible as black and white as it is. Neither do I believe in evolution as it's laid out in science, as it's black and white as it is. Maybe a little bit mix of both, but it's a whole other subject. But in the Bible book of Genesis, there's this incident that happens where they try to build a tower to reach to the heavens because Nimrod wants to unify the people and make himself more powerful than God. Now, I can go into some wild conspiracy theories about the building of this massive tower into the heavens and all of that, but that is said to be Babylon. Babylon was one of the big ancient old world civilizations. One of the 7 wonders of the world is the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. And a lot of teachings that there are in various different denominations and all of the major global religions have traced parts of themselves back to what they call the Babylonian teachings. And one theory that I heard put forward was when that was, so if we like thinking that maybe there was some extraterrestrial help with this building of Babylon. You have to excuse giggles from the background. She's playing Roblox. This building of Babylon was supported by extraterrestrials. That's a little bit out there for you maybe, but there you go. And it was not what other elements of those beings wanted, and so they decided they'd do something to confuse the people at the time. And when Babylon then split, it split and took away various aspects of its foundational teaching to in 4 different directions. And so there's a thread that weaves its way in Hindu religion, in other Eastern, like Far Eastern, Oriental kind of beliefs and religions, into Judaism and into Christianity and into what became those things. And there's like this weaving thread through them all. And finding out now in this world that we live in, where Western civilization seems to have almost destroyed through its like modernization and secularization of Christianity, so that it's the spiritual, energetic side of things is taken away and taken out, so that you're just praying to a being that's in the sky, that's far off from us, that's not really reachable or feels so far away from us that we can't really be connected to him. And that causes so many different things for people to feel separated from each other. All the doors are open, that's why doors are banging. To feel separated from each other and separated from this creative universal source of all things, which has been named God. And yet we are part of that energy. That energy is animating us, it created us, it's part of who we are, it is what we are. And yet we have been led to believe and been taught that it's almost like it's not real. So we have like this ever increasing dismissal of it through scientism, the belief that science has the answers, and that there's more and more evidence that actually in science there's more and more evidence that the energy side of things is real, the non-physical, the unseen is real, the spiritual is real, that we have this the non-physical, science is showing that the non-physical is in fact real. They've began to see the heart field, what is emitted from the heart, what is the energy that's coming from the heart is measurable far outside of the body, because that's energy, that's spirit, and that's real. And what we feel and grow within our heart is creating the reality that we then live in. And that's being proven more and more. So yeah, this idea of Sacred Saturday came in because it was like, okay, the thing that's missing is more talk on spiritual, and I've got some hesitation to talk on that and share on that because of my upbringing in fundamentalist Christianity, and the openness and honesty for me to share openly and publicly my thoughts and feelings now and what I believe now about the soul, about spirit, about extraterrestrials, about the energy. There is still this like little hesitation and blockage for me, even though I've done a great deal for my own spiritual well-being through my holistic health journey. And the reason why I believe the spiritual side of things is the first thing that really, it is the priority. If you actually heal the spiritual, everything else falls into place. If you begin to heal the spiritual and you make that your priority through connecting to source, through meditation, through asking for a guidance that's not your mental capacity and your subconscious mind, the monkey mind, if you reach out and look for that spiritual guidance, that non-physical guidance, then everything else comes in to alignment too. Your emotions, you begin to process your emotions because you're looking for guidance, and that guidance will drop in and the emotions will process, and they'll be crying, and there'll be bubbly snot tears, and there'll be realization of all of the built up emotions that you've stored for decades. Processing the mind, you begin to repattern and reprogram your subconscious mind because you're asking for that spiritual, drawing in that spiritual energy all the time. And when we do all those things, the physical aspects of our health and our reality change as well. And that's, so for me, the spiritual side of things is the priority. And it was when I started practicing meditation, bearing in mind I was taught that everything that I do around all of this was demonic, being in the fundamentalist Christian side of things, that it was all opening up for evil spirits to come in and all of that. So I was very hesitant to meditate, to like free my mind from its monkey chatter, from the mental words, because if spirit comes in, then it's going to be an evil spirit. And that's maybe for another discussion about like the shadow and light aspects of spirit. But when I started to do that and started to meditate, I began to find answers to my questions around what am I supposed to be doing with my life? Why does everything feel like it's so fucked up and wrong? I began to look at changing my perspective and the mind chatter to a more conscious, mindful, thoughtful towards myself and then towards others way of thinking and believing. And other things then began to to sort themselves out. I began to process my emotions. I learned ways to process my emotions, moving emotional processing, like EFT tapping, which is one of the things that I primarily do. EFT tapping that's processing the emotions through the energy channels of the body. It's processing the emotions through the spiritual. The quantum energy clearing process, which I'm creating, is processing the emotions through the energies, releasing the energy through the spirit, through the non-physical, through the unseen, to release it and let it go. And as I began to do that, certain other things began to change as well. Pain went. When I processed my emotions, the pain went that I'd had in my back. Intermittently, huge flare-ups, it went. And that specific region of pain in my back has never come back. Other things began to change too, and over the years, like, that's where where and how I feel that physical weight has dropped off, because I've processed my emotions, and so physical weight has gone. We can change our reality and the physical things in life by doing that. And then another thing that went completely unexpectedly was my dependence on alcohol as a crutch to get through the end of the day every day. And I wasn't like, I never identified as an alcoholic, because I could always let it go and come back to it and let it go. I never actually was dependent on it, but it was always like, if I could, it was always, oh, you know what, I'll turn to the alcohol to help me process or numb or lighten up or courage type thing. You know, if I had a tough situation going on, or I was going to go out and socialise, it'd be like, oh, well, I'll have something, alcohol, to get me through that, and all of that. And the alcohol, it just went. I literally went in the supermarket, in the wine aisle, where I went every couple of days and bought a couple of bottles of wine, and was looking at the wine, and this just like real strong thought and feeling came in, like, I don't even want this. And I think I've been meditating for a couple of weeks, not an awful long time. And by meditating, it was more like visualization, meditative practice. I think I'd done some like quite deep, where you roll your eyes back, close your eyes and roll your eyes back, to sort of bring yourself into your head space, your spiritual head space, as opposed to the mental head space. And use visualization to release the like monkey mind chatter, to focus on more of what you would like to desire and create. And I'd been doing that and some visualizations around like what I was looking to create and have in that business that I had at the time, which was a handmade business. And I wasn't even doing much more spiritually, but I was beginning to see there was this energy force within me that was there to support me, and I didn't need the alcohol anymore to support me. And that was a big shift. And that was when I was like, oh, the spiritual is the key, the answer. And that's something that shifted for me, because the fundamentalist Christianity that I was being raised in had told me all of this was like bad and evil and demonic, and yet it was opening up a huge change for me in my life for the better. It's like, there's this almost like this desire within certain factions of the world to separate people from what and who they really are. And this was like right at the start of my journey. I think this was before I even started shamanic journeying. So we're talking 2017, because that was when I kind of started this sort of journey, and maybe even the latter end of 2016. And I saw these shifts and changes, and that was when opening up to spirituality as opposed to religion began to be a really big thing for me to do and take on and process and learn. And then because of my upbringing in Christianity, what I have this unique perspective on Christianity and an understanding of the Bible, an ancient spiritual text which has been corrupted and rewritten and massive parts of it taken out. So the parts that are taken out are the parts that talk about the real depth of spirituality, to turn it into this like man-made religious book, whilst they all say that, you know, it's inspired of God and all of that. So I had this unique perspective from a Christianity standpoint, a fundamentalist, strict Christianity basis, which I freed myself from mentally, eventually, having physically left close to 20 years ago. I was still brainwashed. There was still like some mental stuff going on in my head, even right up till last year, 2024. There was still some programming, very, very depth, the very root basis of not being worthy, not being good enough, because God's going to destroy you because you're not a good enough Christian or not in that specific religion. That was there. It's so programmed. The subconscious programming is so deep. And then there's like genetic programming for so many of us, even if you're an atheist, and even if you've never had a belief in God, and even if you've never been to church, or you wouldn't define yourself as an atheist, you define yourself as spiritual. Maybe you identify as one religion and not the other. But as we go back and look back through our soul experiences and our ancestral and genetic patterning and the coding and the stories that have been a lot of stories that are passed on now by the adults now to their children, like money's the root of all evil, come from this wonky, screwed up application of things in the Bible. And it's like, it's so messed up, it's so ingrained in people, so that even if you don't even think you have a religious brainwashing element going on, the chances are you probably do. And then there's aspects of our ancestral generational trauma around ancestors. We're going to have ancestors, even if you don't believe in a soul at this point in time. You will have had ancestors who went around killing people because of religion, whether it's in more modern times, in things like the Second World War, or whether it's going back to things like the Crusades. We came from those people. We came from those people who literally destroyed witches, who destroyed people who were not Christians. And if you've ever watched any, not that, you know, there's going to be elements of historical drama that's not quite as it happened, shall we say. But if you watch any of those or see any of those, the way that the Crusades and the way that Christianity came in and like literally obliterated the pagans, those who were following nature, those who were following the seasons and the natural rhythm of things, they just like wiped out the spiritual side of things. Whether it's in Scandinavia and the Nordic parts of Europe, whether it's in Africa, whether it's in Asia, whether it's over in America, there's just this wave of Christianity that then spread through. And then other religions who've gone out and fought and tried to obliterate those who don't believe in the same way as whichever faith it is that's trying to say that it's the one that's right and everything else is wrong. And those particularly who try to draw us away from our oneness with creative life force energy, because that is what we are. We are an aspect of creative life force energy. We are an aspect of God force creation. And to be taken away from that and made separate from it, and then be like having to atone for sin all the time and atone for being not perfect, and all of that is just so messed up. And I call it spiritual homicide, because it's destroying people's spirituality, people's way of knowing that they're so much more than flesh and bone. They're so much more than the physical experience that they've got, your physical house, your physical financial situation, your physical health. You're so much more than that. You're so much greater than that, because you have this life force energy that created everything running through you. And yeah, anything that's taken us away from knowing that is literally spiritually killing us. Spiritual homicide. And that's what a lot of these fundamentalist groups are doing. It's spiritual homicide, and it's not good, and it's time for it to stop. We're living in this really powerful cosmic time of energetic alignment that nobody has ever experienced before, because it's like, what is it, like 2,000 something years that we have this alignment of change of planets, the way that the planets change sign, the precession of the planets, the way that they all are in the same alignment, happens once every 2,000 and something years. So none of us know what that's like. So it's time for this massive change to occur. And part of that is this realization that we are more than the physical. Once we begin to know that and open up to that, we can begin to see and create so much more of what we wish for, long for, and have more expansion, and then more joy, and then more just amazing wonder in our lives. So that's the theme of a Saturday. It's not always going to be quite like this. I may dive into some more spiritual aspects of things. I might create and bring in some meditations some Saturdays. I'll be in my therapy room some Saturdays. I'll bring in like a meditative practice and some other spiritually nurturing. I might do some energy healing sessions sometimes, bring in some like calm and relaxation into this, especially when I'm able to live stream then on YouTube and do a live healing on YouTube and all of that. Maybe we'll go to the Akashic Records. Maybe we'll have a little play with many of the different spiritual tools that are out there that can support and nurture us all. But that's Sacred Saturday. It's a day to find the spiritual, the sacred, the stillness, and be more whole in all aspects of ourselves. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts, feelings. Where are you on the spiritual scale of things? Are you open to spiritual thoughts and beliefs? Are you a complete atheist and don't believe in anything spiritual whatsoever? Or are you somewhere in between? Or do you have other spiritual thoughts and feelings? I'd love to know. You can drop the comments. If you'd like to come and have some spiritual mentoring with me, I will drop that link below as well. And if you have fundamentalist Christian upbringing, you can check out my other channel as well for thoughts and how I've released the indoctrination that I was raised with to be open and free spiritually to explore the depths of who we really are. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.